I woke up very unhappy, very scared, just very scary. Scared, really scared. Was I really scared? I had like weird feelings in the pit of my stomach before it even started. I'm scared.
What's up, boners?
I had this whole intro written up, and Brennan and I have been arguing off camera for 20 minutes, and now I can't even do it.
And I won.
I just need somebody to throw me a bone.
Temple.
There it was.
You know, me and Dubs went to preschool together. We've known each other for so long. We went to preschool together, and that preschool was called Temple Bethel. And now I hear it's called the Bone Temple Bethel.
The Bone Temple is when my garbage can after I eat a bunch of chicken wings.
Brendan was workshopping. He wanted to say, the Bone Temple is what my room's called, but then he chickened out right
That's
there.
called the Alone Temple.
The Alone Temple. Alone Temple Bethel, dude.
Oh, I'm laughing now. Cheered up. I am so freaking excited, guys, to kick off this frigid Saturday together, boys. And honestly, to start the new podcast year of 2026 with the first 2026 film and the 26th ever episode of 2 Minute Baby, a horror movie review show where three best friends discuss a new horror movie each episode. That's right, y'all. The bad boys of horror are back.
That was a convoluted way of saying you might have heard our Shining episode earlier this year, but now this is our first 2026 release.
Anyway, the daddies are home, and sticking with our 20s this and 20s that, we said we'd do it, and now we're doing it. This episode, we're covering 2026, 28 years later, The Bone Temple, directed by Nia DaCosta, written by Alex Garland, produced by Danny Boyle, and starring Rafe Fiennes, Jack O'Connell, and Alfie something little kid.
Spelled Ralph.
Ralph. Me and Dubs had a little bit of a tiff, surprise, surprise, about the pronunciation of
Forgot about that argument.
Fiennes' first name.
Well, I'll tell you what the most
Spelled
important
Ralph. He said Ray. I said Ralph. It's actually Rafe.
Wait, what do you mean it's Rafe? It's spelled Ralph.
It's pronounced Rafe.
It's Rafe.
Oh.
So when you say Rafe Fiennes, I thought it was Ray. So when you say Rafe Fiennes, you're kind of also saying Rafe?
Are all British Ralphs Rafes?
Yeah, well, it's like Anthony in the British
Is
people say
Anthony?
Anthony.
Okay. And they say maths.
They say mass.
And they say Zed.
Aluminium, yeah. They gotta say a lot of shit
definitely.
that, guess what, dude? We won the war. Thank you.
Wait, hold on.
Say our shit now.
Do you guys want to know his full name? Because
Raphael.
Rafe Nathaniel Twistleton Wykingham Fiennes.
Twizzleton?
Twizzleton, dude.
There's another Twizzleton.
A spot of tea and a couple Twizzletons could really make my
What
mind.
really matters is, in this movie, he put the fine in Ray Fiennes.
Yo, he'd be
because,
looking svelte.
dude, he was svelte and welt, and it made my pants get up in a melt.
Anyway, I'm your super excited host, Will Dubs. As usual, I'm joined to my right by musician and fellow horror historian, sometimes a friend, sometimes not, Brendan Fletcher, and to my left by comedian and titular baby, Abby Krantz. We got a lot to talk about. Let's dive right in. Brendan, let's hear that beautiful voice. Hit
Pop
that
it.
theme song.
2 men and a baby, oh yeah. 2 men and a motherfucking baby.
All right, folks, let's roll directly into our itinerary, our schedule of scares. Before we start our first segment, though, does anybody want to talk about the viewing experience we had today?
So we popped off at Alamo Draft House, which means Daddy's went at 1 p.m. That means I ate too much and I feel sick. Dubs immediately said, "Is it so early that you're not serving drinks?" And they were like, "No, we're serving drinks." And he was like, "Cool, can I have the maximum amount of drinks?" 4 Tito's in. What is it? About 4 p.m.?
Literally didn't drink the second one, so it's 2 Tito's.
He drank half.
He
of it.
literally didn't drink the second half
But
of the
also-
second one, dude.
To be fair, Brendan texted me at 12:15 like, yo, the bar's not even open. He was at a bar around the corner. So
And then, funny enough, Brendan also didn't bring glasses, so we brought 3 glasses for him to try on, and none of them really worked. It was like Goldilocks without a happy ending.
Yeah.
But Brendan had to... I saw him throughout the movie try different versions. He's like, all right, I'm raw dogging it, squinting. Then he put on the glasses that were too strong, probably get a headache.
I saw most of the things on screen.
No, but I would see there would be like a scene change, like it's drastically different like landscape, and I would see you kind of like
switch it up. And the funny thing too about every time Alamo, any gory one is funny to eat because there's literally a scene where I'm shoveling popcorn in my mouth, and with the exact same excitement and form and everything, a zombie is shoveling brains into his mouth, and everyone around me is being like, I can't really eat during this moment. It's never stopped me in my life. Although the one time close enough is I went to Nighthawk Cinema, the other dine-in theater, to watch The Whale. Brendan Fraser eating himself to death. That was a dark one. That was hard to get through those chicken tendies and fries, but I did.
What was his Binkymeter score?
I mean, that movie is scary. That movie is a future do avoid.
Wait, totally separate. This is actually a good question. What's scariest non-horror movie?
Ooh, Mulholland Drive, I think.
Ooh.
That's a really good answer.
Yeah, you put me on the spot. I'm not ready. What's yours?
I have two. It's Good Time and Enter the Void.
Have you ever seen Fern Gully? It was an animated movie back when I was like 7, 8 years old. It's about the destruction of the rainforest.
Aww.
And it's this smoke, like god demon, and it has a musical number, dude. And that shook my little tiny 7-year-old bones. But anyway, we're here to be a couple boneheads and get into the boner temple. Let's talk about Ray Fiennes.
Before that, though, the way we kick things off is we go around and we give our own synopses of the movie in one sentence and one sentence only before contrasting it with the official one, so folks at least have an idea about what the movie's about. Who wants to go first?
I'll do my synopsis first. A roving gang of murderous blondies happen upon their false god in the post-apocalyptic Scottish countryside, culminating in a day of reckoning.
Dude. How do you do them? The movie just happened. Because my theory is that you'd sit in your room late at night, turn off the lights, just like light a little old school candle by the window and think of these. But you wrote it in the frigid walk to here, I guess.
Yeah.
Dude, you know the in 8 Mile, there's one scene of him like writing raps.
Oh, yeah.
And the beat is going on and he's just like, car.
Yeah.
I'll do that with synopsis.
Bar. Yeah. He literally
like,
just wrote roving.
Pusketti.
Waited.
Rough confetti. Oh, spaghetti.
All right, mine is not really a synopsis, but
Cool.
I don't know why this. I just have a strong sentiment about this, and it is that this movie is the Empire Strikes Back of horror. I'll explain later.
Wait, what is it?
The Empire Strikes Back of horror.
Yeah, I fucks with it.
Okay.
Heavy.
Okay, my synopsis, 28 years later, Bone Temple, is post-apocalyptic world is likely to be led by some real dum-dums.
Here's the official, and this is, we hate these, way too long. Expanding upon the world created by Danny Boyle and Alex Garland in 28 years later, but turning that world on its head. Nia DaCosta directs 28 years later The Bone Temple. In a continuation of the epic story, Dr. Kelsin makes a discovery that could change the world as they know it, and Spike's encounter with Jimmy Crystal becomes a nightmare he can't escape. In the world of the Bone Temple, the infected are no longer the only threat to survival. The inhumanity of the survivors can be stranger and more terrifying.
How many chapters was that?
Yeah,
synopsis?
That was fucking terrible.
Can we get that on audiobook? That is...
Jeez, yeah, true, dude. You know what's crazy is like if you compare this movie to the movie before this, 28 years later, I felt like less happened, and I mean that in a positive way. I felt like there was less going on, and I thought that was a positive, and it's surprising that the synopsis was so involved.
Right, because you actually didn't need that.
Less happened.
Totally.
And that was like a definitely like a
I consider
beneficial
this
thing to the
pre-spoilers, but there's really 3 events in the movie, like three events. Yeah, I just want to. The Empire Strikes Back of horror. The reason I say that,
couldn't let that sit too long unexplained.
Everybody was asking.
He said, "I'll come back to that soon."
So there are a lot of great sequels, horror sequels, but very seldom. And I think that a lot of people, us included, kind of forgot when we were evaluating the first one that it was very much planned to be the beginning of a long story. Now that the second one has come out, it really, to me, is on the level of Empire Strikes Back. The other one, and a lot of people also think it's the best, is The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. I remember watching The Fellowship of the Ring and being like, why what was that? Why did I spend 2.5 hours?
One, that's the first
Yeah,
one.
and then it just ended.
Brendan will fight anybody that talks any trash about Lord of the Rings.
No, but I was also a kid, but I didn't realize, like, nobody told me
that you're looking forward to a 9-hour thing.
And now that we've seen the continuation
told me that either, but I still
of
love
the
it.
journey, what's so great about it, I'm showing my hand here that I think this was a great movie, but I also think it made the first one better in terms of
looking back. The only problem with that analogy is I feel like The New Hope is great and like actually lives as a good standalone movie. And Star Wars.
You know what's crazy?
But we don't have to get into
the
Star
problem
Wars.
with that analogy I find is that this movie sucked way more than both of Two Towers and Empire Strikes Back.
Wow.
Whoa.
He's already getting contrarian. You look back and you realize that a lot of the plot in the first one, especially some of the plot that I complained about in our previous episode, which you guys should all go back and listen to, about 28 years later, the first of the new ones, a lot of those characters were just set up to let us care about Spike. Like his whole mom plot, obviously that was a movie plot and it was still important, but it was like a lot of it was to set up Spike and not as much to stick with that dad character. Never came back in this one. Spoiler.
But so I don't think he won't.
No, I'm sure he will. We're going to go back to the island for the third one.
What
What's the
more
third
needs
one
to
called?
be said? What more needs to be said in this movie?
Anyway, at this juncture in time, we allow our baby on the show to talk about how scary the movie was for the normies out there, for the regular people. This is Baby in the Corner.
Brendan, let's hear that intro theme song.
Nobody puts baby in the corner, but we just put him in the corner. Nobody puts baby in the corner, but he's in that corner right now.
So I'm baby, my turn. I watched the recap of 28 years later, the non-Bone Temple, on the way driving to the movie, and we obviously watched it in full for the show, previous episode, and I was scared by the first one. It had some classic zombie shit, but then it ended with that very silly, very polarizing thing that I think really plays into what Will just said, where like out of the nowhere, I think me and Will both were more accepting of it than Brendan. I think fair on both sides, because we were like, oh, I know it's going to go into this next thing, but it was a huge tonal shift. And then this opens with the Jimmies again, and especially like the main Jimmy, they are just like funny and weird and just tonally out there enough to let me drop my guard. Like I always tell the story of I'm on the way to the theater, I'm like, this is so exciting. I sit down and I go, God damn it, wait, I forgot the point of this podcast is I hate these fucking movies and this is annoying. This one, I didn't have that moment until we were like a scene and a half in. And then a scene and a half in, I was like, oh, right, this is still fucking Alex Garland and a horror film, and it got gnarly very quickly. We'll talk more about it in the spoiler rooms, but essentially, immediately there was some blood that was not gore, like, ooh, Terrifier style. Let's see the close-up. I love that, actually. I think that's artistic and cool. This was fucked up immediately, like, wait, they're talking lightly, but death is imminent. Death is everywhere. Blood is everywhere. There is no savior. There's no care about human life. And that is very scary to me. And
I love that.
Yeah, no, I thought it was good, but I thought it was immediately took me out of it. So, like, again, as someone that I am a baby, jump scares, you can't judge my reviews of jump scares because I think they're all scary, even like ones from Goosebumps 99. But I'm not scared of gore. This had some gore that fucking scared me. It was just like torture, it wasn't torture porn. It was just torture. It wasn't torture for the fun of it. It was torture because it was dark world, post-apocalyptic, run by dum-dums bullshit. And I think I have a lot of political thoughts because of the climate and how that relates to this, I think, which we'll get into later. But either way, this was just a fucked up movie. It also did the thing that we all loved about 28 Days Later. It was my first viewing was for this podcast. It's Will's perfect score movie. So I think we all agree. It got back to one of the coolest plots of all time. It's been done before, obviously, by not just 28 Days, but you're more scared of the people than the zombies. And that was a cool return to form that wasn't the case really in 28 years later. Definitely was like why 28 weeks later was shit ass shit. But we were right back in that with the Jimmies. Unpredictable, more evil than a zombie that is just simply carnage. So all that to say, it still wasn't really that much of a zombie movie. It was more like a post-apocalyptic political conversation on life and the human. It was philosophical. So I think some of it, I'm talking up some of the grossness. I gave it a 7.5. So it wasn't
Binkymeter?
Binkymeter, 7.5.
I was curious because this is like the first horror movie I can think of where it's like horrific and not scary in the most. There really isn't any jump scares.
No, there weren't.
There was one
yeah.
towards the end, which is open to interpretation.
And
but
that right,
otherwise, it's just.
And the one at the end was really telegraphed. So I was actually, that one didn't fuck me up.
Yeah, I don't think...
It was one of the first movies where nothing fucked me up like that.
It was hardly really a horror movie in the traditional sense.
But it was horrifying.
It's a horror
movie. It's more of a, to me, it's like, it's a survivalist.
Right.
Drama.
And we can't get in, and I want to talk a lot about genres in this episode, but I'll wait until we get into the spoiler room. But I think genre-wise, it's very interesting. And I think, let's go real deep. I think that we are like reaching a new point in genres. I think it's a very cool time to be doing this podcast, not just to toot our own horn, but I think it used to be like horror comedy. This is not horror comedy in the way of like Shaun of the Dead that is making a parody of horror. This is a funny movie that is horrifying. And I know that's happened before, but it feels like we are reaching some new
But
grounds.
even for that to be true under the wrapper of a quote-unquote zombie movie, which is its own subgenre,
yeah.
Right? I mean, I like the ambition to make a zombie movie when everything has already been said. Right. That was the big challenge. 28 years later, I was the biggest defender of that movie. To your point, it didn't have enough of the classic, the humans are the evil. But now in hindsight, you realize it kind of sets it up.
Right,
it's more about like Arrested Development, in my opinion, and what would happen if time stopped and isolating civilization or whatever.
Love that show.
But this one took that played out theme of all the best zombie movies and dialed it up to a million.
Everything that makes 28 Days Later great is not found in this movie.
Is different. Well, no, I mean, I think I just brought up
the low budget,
the military,
hyper realistic, the grittiness, the sort of the low budget nature, the way they were still able to achieve the hyper realism of it. To me, that's what made that movie so amazing and such a pinnacle in the horror genre. It completely defined like the zombie movie as we know it today, like the modern zombie movie.
Yeah.
Not talking about like Romero or anything, but we've come so far from that aesthetic that it's almost like we shouldn't even really consider that movie when talking about this movie.
It's a very good point. This happens a lot. A band makes something that is epic, amazing, their biggest, most famous work. Everyone loves it. And a long time later, they grow. And a lot of times, we fall victim to being like, wow, their new shit sucks. And sometimes we're right. And sometimes we're just married to the old shit and we can't open our eyes to the new. And I'm not saying one or the other.
Totally.
I mean, for this one, I would say I thought it was actually a cool example.
That's what I'm saying. Like Nirvana, I'm not saying it's bad necessarily. I'm just saying it's like a departure from what we love so much. Like I compare it to like Nirvana playing like the acoustic MTV Unplugged set, where it's like Nirvana, you love Nirvana for their grittiness, the grungy, Nevermind, and
that's
like
a good point because a lot of people.
And then
love
they play
that.
acoustic, and they're like, I didn't even know they were capable of this, but this is completely different. And you bring in a completely different new fandom with that album. And I kind of compare it to this.
In my opinion, if you're going to wait almost 30 years to make a sequel, to your point, Brendan, I mean, it literally revitalized an entire, almost reinvented a genre. If you're going to go back, they got the same guy. And I think that cannot be overstated. So I actually think he overcompensated. To your point, like Nirvana, he had to do an iPhone. He did a fucking digital camera last time. Now he's using an iPhone. What I appreciated about this was that Nia DaCosta tried to keep generally the aesthetic, but she didn't directorially. It was way more grounded and storytelling.
I agree.
And it was grainy, but it wasn't like I have a thing.
No, story-wise, I felt it was really well told, and that's the biggest difference for me from the movie preceding this one.
Real quick before we get into the spoiler room on it, do you want to tell us, Dubs, a little bit about Nia DaCosta? Because, my understanding is, obviously the original 28 Days Later, this is a recap, you could hear this in our past episodes about the 28 Days franchises, but the original one is obviously written by Alex Garland, directed by Danny Boyle. Then weeks... we throw it out. We toss that bad boy out. That was not either of them. We retcon it. Then 28 years later, the last one was Garland and Boyle back together. But as Dubs was saying, it's a trilogy. that we are now just watched the second of the new trilogy. Then the idea is Boyle only directed the first one of the trilogy, and then there's going to be 2 new directors. So this one we just saw, Bone Temple, was Nia DaCosta, and then the next one that I assume is called Bone Synagogue or something.
Boyle might come back for the
so
third
we don't know.
one.
But so Nia DaCosta is a new, young, she's very young. She's make you feel bad about
also
your life and what you've done so far young.
I think she's British, but this show that I always tell people is one of the most criminally underrated, incredible shows I've ever seen, Top Boy.
I love Top Boy.
When it was brought back to life on Netflix, Nia DaCosta was one of the main directors.
Because she directed The Marvels, which was like bad.
Yeah, so this is the thing, is her first theatrical, like wide release movie was Candyman, the quote requel, when this whole thing was happening where they would bring franchises back and have the original characters, and it was like a sequel, but also a revitalization. It was so fucking good.
Really?
Candyman was so good. It was true to that theme, like Top Boy. Candyman, people talk about Get Out. Candyman was probably the first...
The remake of Candyman?
No, I'm talking about the original.
The original Candyman.
The original...
You said Get Out, that's why.
I'm saying people always talk about Get Out as like the social satire horror movie about the plight of the black man. Candyman did that 25 years
So
before.
wait, was the OG one really good too?
Yeah, the OG one
like
is
campy,
really good.
No?
It's really good.
And then
it is campy to it.
And then the requel also, like, people think is
it
good?
modernized it, and it was brilliant. But anyway, she did a great job. And people were like, this girl is legit. She's an up-and-comer. Which is why Marvel, when they were at their best, they would get these, like, 1-film, 2-film indie directors and make good movies. I guess they went back to that recipe and were like, Nia DaCosta, direct The Marvels. The problem was the script was ass. The movie was like half baked. And from what I've heard, she was like, there was so much studio oversight where she didn't get to do half of what she wanted to. And it is so bad.
Yeah. And I was like a fan of like even some of the lesser reviewed Marvel movies. And I remember going into that one like, it'll be all right. Oh my God. It's so bad.
Anyway, so here's one Dub's detail that I will say. And I wrote this down during the scenes. This isn't really a spoiler. There's the attack in the middle of the movie in the woods where we get introduced to 3 people that we don't know. And there's a zombie attack. So Nia asked for more infected in the film. A lot of people criticized the first one for not having enough. And there's way more in the first one.
Yeah, this one has very low.
And
I like that.
I actually think that her bringing them into that scene, that attack, gives a little bit more characterization to the pregnant lady. And we get to see the guy that becomes infected get killed by Jimmy Inc. later. Yeah.
Yep.
I actually think that it was a good call. Obviously, give the fans what they want.
I agree, because I think what that did is you don't want to overdo it for fan service, and not fan service in the anime way, which just means tits. You don't want to overdo it with like, it's a zombie movie, so we show it. And I think we all liked that it was subtle, but I did actually need that scene to remind me of the world, because you get so into, like I said, the politics, the philosophical parts of the small worlds that we've learned about, that you forget a little bit, like, oh, right, wandering around is super dangerous. Like the Spike, our main character, at one point wanders off from the group, and it's like, you're worried about the other group, but then you forget, oh, there's also zombies. It's just scary to walk around.
The quote-unquote survivors, right? There are groups or pockets of survivors. They still have to survive the zombie apocalypse. It was a good reminder. I think it was important, because otherwise the only zombie would have been Samson. I do think we should probably
walk on down.
Spoiler room?
We're walking down, walking down to the spoiler room,
So, folks, that was the sound of us going into the spoiler room. But you know what? We also went into a different room. The bathroom. And with the power of editing, you guys didn't know that. But that's a very powerful tool, and it deserves a lot of recognition, which is why we want to give a shout out to Sam. Thank
newest
you.
member of the 2 Men and a Baby crew. We're like Final Destination here. Everyone that joins the crew, they end up leaving the crew and really just dying. Sam, you're our newest member. We hope to keep you at least 3 episodes.
Thank you, Sam.
Thanks, Sam.
All right, so let's start the spoiler room with a little summarization of the whole movie so that those of you that are too a scaredy cat to see it can follow along. However, we still suggest if you got any bit of them guts, pause right now, hop on over, watch that film, And with the power of you pausing us, welcome back. I hope you like that movie. I'm now going to summarize it just so that you can remember what happened. All right, here's the summary for 28 years later, The Boner Temple. The last one ends with Spike being on his own out in the scariness, and he runs into the weird Power Ranger Teletubby Jimmy boys. Clearly, they're not just cool dudes. They're actually crazy, and he has to fight one of the big dudes. The dude is kicking his ass, and then right when the dude's looking away, Spike stabs him in the thigh, and he hits an artery, and it just starts bleeding and bleeding and bleeding and bleeding, and holy shit, it don't stop bleeding. And you're just like, Jesus Christ, they're going to save him, right? Nope, they just let him bleed out and die, and that's how you know, like, everything is not sacred in this movie, and it's going to get real fucked up, real gory. So then he's now part of them. He joins their team by getting their version of a black belt, which is a blonde wig, and they go around terrorizing folks all around as if zombies weren't bad enough to deal with. Now you got scarier humans. Separately, Ralph Fiennes, his fine ass, is hanging out. I will call him Ralph because this is goddamn America. Yeah. Ralph Fiennes is back in the Bone Temple. He's now doing his weird shit, which he's developing a relationship with one of the alphas, who he named Samson. He's a zombie, obviously. But then you start realizing, like, he's really just there to get shot by the morphine dart, and you realize Samson's just like one of us. He just wants some sweet, sweet drugs. So him and Ralph Fiennes start getting closer and closer. They're having a great time. They start doing afters. They're partying. They're getting zooted. And you realize, like, Samson doesn't want to harm him. That's a crazy shift. Ralph Fiennes starts going one step further, and he goes, yo, I think I'm going to cure this dude and all zombiness with science. So he goes in and he goes, yo, Big Pharma, call me. This is a movie for you. I got some antipsychotics. I got some other shit, and I'm going to cure it. So him and Samson start just becoming absolute boys. We jump back to the Jimmies. They finally come upon Ralph Fiennes. And the whole time, Master Jimmy, who's the real evil one, has been saying he's talking to the devil, and the devil is Saint Nick. And all of a sudden, they're like, yo, this must be Saint Nick, because Ralph Fiennes is, like, covered in red stuff, and he's in a bone fucking temple. So they're like...
He's got a pet
right,
alpha.
He's got a pet alpha. So all of this says he's it. So then they go in, but the main Jimmy, he knows he's been sort of lying. So he sneaks over and he says, yo, Ralph Fiennes, if you don't pretend to be the devil in front of my boys and tell them that I'm the real God and they need to follow me, then I'm going to kill you. So then Ralph Fiennes is like, okay, and he puts on this awesome little show with some Iron Maiden where he pretends to be even more devilly than he already looked. Probably unnecessary, but it works. And he's doing it, but then right at the last second during that ceremony, he realizes that Spike, who is his absolute boy from the past, is one of the Jimmies, and he goes, okay, I can't let this happen. And he goes, actually, now that I'm the devil and you believe me, you need to crucify your leader, the main Jimmy. They go, say what? Two of them say, wait, I don't like that. But then Spike and then the girl Jimmy, Kelly, they team up together.
Jimmy Inc. was her.
Okay, Jimmy Inc. World.
Jimmy Inc. World. Jimmy Inc. World.
So then Kelly and Spike fucking stab the other ones, kill them. They crucify the bad Jimmy, but all in the midst of this, the bad Jimmy is able to stab our good old friend Ralph Fiennes. He's dying at the end. He's very sweet. Samson comes back, pretty much cured from the antipsychotics, picks up Ralph Fiennes. They have a heart-to-heart moment as we watch the bad Jimmy on the crucifixion, and that's pretty much the end of the movie. And then we pop over to a real big moment where we realize we're back with our boy Cillian Murphy from the first one. He's chilling with his daughter. They're just living their lives out in the woods, in a cabin. They look out the window. They see Spike. They see Kelly running from some zombies. They say, yo, should we help them? And Cillian says, damn right we should. Bam, end of movie. Check it out.
With the original song.
Check it out, guys.
Yeah, with the Radiohead back.
Listen, check it out. This movie, listen, I got my biggest complaint. I enjoy this movie. All in all, I will say this movie was a thumbs up from your boy. But that being said, there were a couple moments where you got to suspend disbelief a little bit.
Like zombies, the concept of zombies.
Is it going to be the Samson treatment?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're telling me all the doctors in the world, right? The rage virus has run rampant, and all the doctors didn't come up with the idea of a cocktail of morphine and antipsychotics. I mean, they're like, they didn't strike one doctor throughout the whole island of the UK. Be like, well, maybe we should try some lithium
this is a
on
good
these
point.
guys.
You definitely have to retcon 28 weeks for that plot, which they did, to be fair. But because 28 weeks, there's a lot of experimenting. I think you can
That's
get
my point.
Pretty much, if 28 weeks didn't exist, you could argue that in 28 days, it happens pretty fucking fast.
So, and in my opinion, this is crucial. The word cure, I don't think, is proper when it comes to Ray Fiennes.
Did I say cure?
Well, no, Abby did. Curing the infection.
Okay.
So what I believe, and I want to come with evidence, is that they treat it, they don't cure it. That's different, right? You can get rid of symptoms, but you can't permanently remove. It's a virus. And what we learn, and watching it a second time, because the first time, Brendan, I couldn't agree more. I think Alex Garland is such a good writer, and I was like, this is lazy. Oh, we just give them psychotics and it's fixed. But watching it a second time, at the very beginning of the movie, Samson's attack, a scene that serves no purpose otherwise. They show it through his eyes.
Right. And he sees the person turn into a zombie.
It's a very delirious view of a person, a psychotic view of a person. Also, we know the virus has evolved. Now, Ray Fiennes also uses the word treat, not cure. He says if it is a mental thing where the virus makes you attack babies that have nothing to do with being threatened or anything like that.
And just to lay it out for our listeners, like what that scene that we see through the eyes of the alpha shows us is that even when they see babies, they must see a screaming, scary zombie, and that's what they attack. That doesn't solve this. And also going even back to the first movie, it's called the rage virus. So it elicits this fury and anger that we're now introduced to the concept might be based on what they're seeing, viewing, experiencing as very chaotic and evil. So he says, what if this is a fog, a mental thing that can be... Psychosis.
Yeah, treated, not cured, but treated like, let's see. So the morphine, it makes him docile.
Yeah.
It makes him more agreeable, which, frankly, is a good way that a lot of people treat but don't cure their psychosis, right?
Which already, I know you're going to get somewhere, but already makes a good point to Brendan's point. Like, why were they not at least shooting morphine at people?
Why is this a revelation?
Well, I think the distinction between treating and curing is huge, right?
But no, but that's not my point. I'm saying if it's treating, let's say like we could elicit this response in all of the affected by giving them a high dose of morphine. Why is this a revelation now?
Okay, so in 28 days, the entire city of London was wiped out and vacant, right?
Well, Ray Fiennes wasn't. Still around.
Ray Fiennes is living in the countryside, right? And he did say he raided every cabinet in a 70-mile radius. Yeah. He's also, as far as we know, the only doctor
in the world.
No, in this new...
Well, you have to presume in the world, because this is what I'm talking about, suspending disbelief. You have to now say that Ray Fiennes is the only one capable of coming to the realization that giving a high dose of morphine to the affected, this is like a new thing.
So for both 28 days and now the year's trilogy, it is a quarantined area. Mm-hmm. They're in a quarantined area. The concept of quarantine, what was very dark about the end of 28 days, is that the rest of the world is saying, we're not trying to fix this. We are going to let them die out. So to the point of this movie, no, it's not saying that they don't know this. Maybe they can solve it, but they don't want to.
I think they set up the idea, and I agree with you, Abby. Cillian Murphy's character wakes up in a hospital, and it's completely chaotic. There are no politicians, there are no doctors, there are no people working at administrative levels that are trying to subdue this virus. So you already accept that in the first movie. 100% agree. It's just hard to believe that from the first movie to this moment in time, there hasn't been any effort.
But we don't know that there hasn't been effort. There could have been effort, and it was squashed
and
because
he is just unaware of it.
My response would be that, in the realm of the characters that we know, he's the only one.
We're in a small
world. Right, but let me just say this one thing.
It's very possible.
Is it not a leap? Is it ridiculous to say that a normal person, a normal free-thinking individual, could prescribe antipsychotics and morphine?
I agree. It is weird.
You don't need to be a doctor to figure that out.
To prescribe them?
No, you don't need to be a doctor to realize that maybe antipsychotics and a dose of morphine might
it'd be more like start with that.
Effect.
Yeah, you'd start with that. It is a little bit of a stretch because we had a discussion about how it's cool that in 28 days they're not trying to get into all the classic zombie trope of and this is how we solve it. So they did now go back to that. I agree.
We come into the movie with him having the morphine darts already. He always had them.
Right.
He knew they worked. I do think, Brendan, probably somewhere across the British island, there's somebody else that also would have hopefully figured this out if they were a doctor and had morphine. Yeah. I think the part that bothered me was the antipsychotic thing, but also they did kind of explain that in our grounded universe of this one isolated town that took 20 years to build, And the one doctor that they know over there, he did figure it out. And it was only able to be tested when he was able to tranquilize, essentially. Because how else would you test it? It's also so dangerous. They established in 28 days that there's no anything.
I agree, dude. To me, like I was able to suspend disbelief. To me, was not like it didn't affect my appreciation of the movie whatsoever.
I do wish I totally agree, and let's sum it up with my point. No, but I think like I do wish they made it a little more complicated because Ralph Fiennes is like this genius that we can buy anything. So what if he just had one little thing where he's like, oh, and I mix in the blood of an infected or something,
or he like he stumbled like Samson stumbles into a plant,
and
it's like oh,
it's
the fucking you know what I mean, the feather of the valley.
You hear
bush,
this Alex Garland hit us up, dude. We got ideas.
It just seems like, oh yeah, the cure is the cure that's always been the cure. It's take Xanax or take lithium or you know what I mean. It's like
literally like usually the trope that's good of these movies would be like a doctor goes, oh, it's fine, give him an antipsychotic, and then like Exorcist, they try to give her a Ritalin, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's not helping at all, and so it is funny that the answer. But we can move on.
So the last podcast, I thought they were Irish. I was wrong because Jack Connolly's Irish. They're Scottish.
The Jimmies.
Yeah.
I thought the Jimmies were really interesting because obviously I already talked about it's like they represented this like both fun, but also when you really analyze it a little more, like horrific, scary, unhinged world of children running the place, but with guns and knives enough to control things.
Yes.
And I thought that was really scary. Granted, we're in like a very extreme and scary political climate, so like it's hard to not connect everything to that. But I thought it was really interesting to me. I said this before, but I think that it felt a bit like the politics of the modern MAGA or something where it's like they're these children,
anti-science,
right? And we always talk about the Trump stuff. It's like it's funny. He's funny if he didn't have power. The Jimmies would be funny if you saw him in a lot, but because they have the knives and they learned how to fight,
scary.
They are so fucking scary. And that was a really good job they did in this movie.
Yeah, and he literally has this diatribe where Jimmy Crystal, he talks to Ray Fiennes' character where he's like, oh, so you just think that this disease came from science and molecule or whatever. It's like the anti-science, anti-intellectual. This group, the leader is an absolute dumbass, but he wields the power, and which is the scariest thing.
I mean, his belief system is literally stuck from his 8-year-old brain, right? And that is like,
and I actually thought like Clockwork Orange, there was a big parallel between like that movie and this group of individuals, and I feel like there's almost a subgenre of horror where it's almost like a goofy group of individuals. There's like a levity in the dialogue and like a goofiness and a comical nature. The childlike disposition of these villains is juxtaposed with the violence that they enact constantly. And like that incongruity is like very discomforting, and I felt that way with the Jimmies.
Two quick things on that. One is I might be really stupid in this because I'm not a big outdoors guy, but like them using the binoculars with the one eye, was that just like them being stupid? Or
I thought it was literally like a...
I don't know.
And that just, again, it's like, I know it's the climate, but that felt so Ice Agent-y to me.
Well,
like
maybe one of them was broken.
Tools. No, but everyone kept using different binoculars with one eye. I was like, these idiots. And then I think also like the stuck at 8 years old, the faith and like he's interpreting God or the devil.
I wanted to. So to your MAGA point, he's weaponizing religion.
One of the best parts is he is using the gospel. He's using this voice in his head. Literally, pastors have done this forever. Oh, the voice in my head that is God tells me to give me your money. But he is telling them what the devil says. He's clearly doing it to gain control.
Power,
Then we have a line though that he says, he does hear voices, and I thought that was so fucking good because it's like, he is hearing voices. He's using them into his own belief, but it's not completely made up either. Yeah.
So the weaponizing of religion was so interesting, especially the Jimmy Inc. / Kelly. She believes in Saint Nick
for sure
and the devil, but she doesn't believe in him.
Right.
I think the first movie, especially because there's not that whole dynamic of Arrested Development in the sense of like, what would happen if time stopped? And you have Spike trying to get older, whatever. This movie, in my opinion, is all about the various reactions to trauma that we've now learned.
And anarchy.
I mean, anarchy is the collective trauma. But so now we have Spike, who has seen his mother die and has left
her
his
skull
house.
up.
We have Jimmy, whose family was murdered while he was watching the Teletubbies
And his
as an
fucking
8-year-old.
daddy issues like really came out clearly here. Like he watched his dad lead the dead. I mean, he just was a zombie. But in his head, you can tell you're an 8-year-old. Like the Teletubby stuff is stuck with him. And watching his dad, it's like he thinks his dad was...
His dad
devil.
asked for the zombies to
Right.
come,
Yeah,
remember?
he was
first
trying to
scene of the
s-
first
Right,
movie,
yeah.
28 years later. Yeah.
So then we have Kelly, a.k.a. Jimmy Ink, who I only know this because it was in an interview. The actress asked Nia DaCosta for a little bit extra background to help her portray the character. She was like, how long have it? Because, again, she's clearly brainwashed.
Right.
But doesn't,
she's more questioning.
Yeah, and she's sympathetic. The rough estimate was that she would have been about 8 to 10 when she was taken in. So whatever, that's her trauma. Her reaction is confusing. And then you have Samson, who is an evolved infected.
Right.
Who
We don't ever get an idea of what makes an alpha versus non-alpha, right? We
No,
don't
what
need-
was interesting, the only thing I wrote it down is that they said he was the new alpha. So again, back to my thing about treating, not curing, because I really don't. The psychotics, it was the same day that he comes back, right? So it could wear off and he could stop talking again. That is how we see Samson's trauma or problem dealt with, is literally antipsychotics. Then you have Spike, whose psychosis is dealt with on this journey that we're all following. Jimmy, on the other hand, is the ultimate evil of Arrested Development that turns into like a thirst for just vengeance and evil and hatred and killing, and he makes it a powerful thing. And then Kelson, who's just a scientist trying to actually fix things. And I think the icing on the cake is Cillian Murphy at the very end. Should we help? Of course we do.
Right. But
So
there was a
he's
pause
been
to
there.
make you wonder.
But
yeah.
it's all that you're getting all these various, to your point, like super nuanced reactions to this horrifying set of events. And for a lot of the characters, very specific backstories. And I do think that psychosis exists in all of the characters in some capacity.
Yeah.
Which makes the whole drug thing interesting, in that the one like treatable one is the one that is the
zombie.
The horrific virus
Right,
can
right,
actually be
right.
fixed, and
He's almost simplified himself to not be in denial and just be like, yeah, I want that morphine and I want things to change, versus the Jimmies are just like so deep in it and almost like the more lucid makes you more dangerous.
Fiennes was so fine in this movie, dude. He fucking killed it.
also we got to see his cock.
Yo, yeah.
It was nice.
It was proof because Samson's
have my
big.
glasses
I don't
on
need
at
a
that
cock
point.
that big, dude. Give me fines and that fine
my glasses
regular.
weren't applied at that point.
Yeah.
I think the second time he's hanging out with Samson, he says something about like being content or whatever. He says it more eloquently, and then he takes some morphine himself. Now he wakes up unaffected, and Samson is gone, meaning Samson didn't kill him. But was that him just like ready to die?
No, I
was
think
an
he was.
experiment.
I think, but it was an experiment. But I think it was like actually, I was thinking about it. I thought it was really cool
'Cause
how
he
they
said
did it.
it's cool to
I
just
think
be
it was.
content.
I think it was like he was going on vibes. I don't think he was planning on doing that.
Yeah.
I think he was going to take a tiny bit, and then when he was doing it, he was like, you know what? Let's
No,
try this out.
I
Like,
agree. I think it was more of like let things unfold as they may, and I'm going to give up control.
Right.
And I have a feeling that Samson has become docile enough not to kill me, and maybe I can't trust that that's true, so I'm going to kind of like forego all of my willpower and just take this thing and see what happens.
The more,
And he's reached a point. You got to understand, like, this guy's reached a point where he's seen so much fucking evil from regular people.
Yeah.
From
And he
normal
has
people.
no plan
and
out
And now
either.
he's, like, invested some faith in what has been, like, the most monstrous, like, evil element.
And honestly, like it goes hand in hand with the science stuff that we're talking about. He's a scientist based on hypothesis, they base on time, but he's also like in dire moments, you don't get to follow all of the normal scientific method. And I think that was an example. And then obviously he says it out loud that because the Jimmy show up, he has to expedite his other tests.
Right. The first thing he says is like, "Oh, head's still attached." It's like clearly an experiment that has gone
right.
in his
He
favor.
took a leap of faith.
I definitely think it was an experiment. I just was wondering if you guys thought that he also was like, because he says something to Samson about like the it's okay to just be okay with how
Respite, peace and respite.
Yeah.
peace and respite. And he says that
Such a good
before he
scene.
does
Yeah.
it. So I think that he would have been okay dying there.
So
that's the other thing, the reaction to trauma. Like, we're talking about him as a sensible, scientific, compassionate one. He has a fucking temple of bones.
Yeah.
He takes a pregnant woman, turns her pelvis into a statue. He's also out of his mind a little bit too.
Yeah. I think he's the most sane person given the context of the situation that he's existing in.
Because he's allowing science to make sense of the trauma so you don't lose your mind.
Like, he's logical, but he's surrounded by illogic constantly.
Yeah.
He's surrounded by chaos and things that any logical person from this day and age would be unable to make sense of. He provides like this anchor of logic in this illogical world, and it's so funny that he exists within this temple of bones, and he seems like he's mistaken for the devil, yet he's the most moral, sensible, logical.
I think he also, exactly to your point, I think what is the logical move in all of this is like probably to kill yourself, and he doesn't do that, but I think there's a part of him with taking that leap with the morphine. Let's be honest, like, he had the tools that he could have just killed the Jimmies when they came. He's not a violent guy either.
Well, that's what I loved about his character. He hangs on to humanity so much.
Right, exactly.
Like, when
that's
he's
what kept him sane.
when he's singing the songs, right? When he's dancing with Samson, when he, like a baby, he's wooing him to sleep almost.
No, it's what kept him the most sane character, like you said.
He about to murder Samson, and he says the word moon, and all of a sudden he's like, no, he is the thread that's breaking every second, and he's tying the old world to the present world.
Let's not forget, though, his whole character foundation was memento mori, and for years he didn't seek out helping people.
Memento mori means remember the dead.
Yeah, and that was his last line.
Remember the dead. It's like, even if you're
remember death.
Well, it's saying remember humanity. He's remembering the dead. He's being honest about how fucked things are, but also not giving up humanity. That's all it is.
The one last thing, and then we'll get to our scores. So now that I've seen part 2. And again, I do think the Empire Strikes Back analogy works really well. Like, we learn more about the first movie.
28 years later.
The first 28 years later, I love that this had no, like, surrealism, no, like, boots, weird cut-in, sliced.
What's boots?
They were singing that song in the background of the first one.
I hated them playing very funny, kind of cutesy music over very violent parts in the first movie.
That was the very end.
The fucking dichotomy of the cutesy
and you
music
hated. I remember you hated the soldier who was very funny, who I agree was funny, but I see your criticism there. Yeah, exactly.
The blonde,
it was a little on the nose.
The Iron Maiden scene in this movie works so much better because Nia, like, earned it, and Danny Boyle, I think, overcompensated in the way he directed. Now, what do we think in terms of... So the ending of the first one was the most divisive part. People hated that tone shift. Yeah. I actually think now it makes perfect sense. That corny...
You thought it then, too. No,
well, I liked it just because it was different. Yeah. I was like, all right, they're taking risks, and I know something else is coming. But my interpretation is... Again, going back to the old theme of Arrested Development in the first movie, this kid is finally out there. He encounters for the first time ever people that aren't part of his little tribe.
Yeah.
And remember, he was obsessed with Power Rangers, but kind of abandoned his youth. And then he sees these crazy looking, colorful guys absolutely murder people. He probably is seeing it. Like, I don't necessarily, like, maybe they're doing flips, but, like, they're not doing flips in this movie. I think it's a kid.
Right, his interpretation.
And that's why the beginning of this movie, the stark contrast to, like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, they're not fun.
Yeah, like, I should not have been pals with these.
Yeah.
I actually think if you were to watch them, like, back to back, it probably would have worked way better.
Super interesting point, yeah.
Now,
of course, yeah.
I am curious what you guys think. So... We didn't see anybody from the first movie that wasn't
the island. Right? We're gonna go back to the island in the third one for sure.
The baby.
Right.
We see her mom.
That's the island. It's at the island.
So we know a third one's coming. What's gonna happen with the island? What's gonna happen with the baby? We got introduced to a new pregnant character.
You want us to just write the third movie?
No, but I mean, this is the fun part of, like, where's it go?
Yeah, I mean,
so a pregnant lady escapes. We get introduced to this character that we think is important.
She kicks him in the nuts.
And then she's gone forever. And then also Cillian Murphy back, but only has a daughter. The end of the first, it's him.
Yeah.
It's his girlfriend and Hannah, the daughter of Brendan Gleeson. Also, we thought we saw them escape, right? They
saw the plane.
So why are they still there? I do appreciate the ending of the first one. The solution was, let's see how long until the infected starve. And you see them kind of starving at the end. But in this movie, they're eating.
Right.
They make a point to show them eating.
Right.
You had just asked the question to us.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Well, I want to hear your thoughts.
Or was,
on
that, was that like rhetorical? Yeah, I don't care. I think the movie should end now. I think the whole
You don't want to
franchise.
see
No. What do you want to see happen?
all those things? I want to see how they tie them together. I'm not saying I love it, but
really
I'll be
want
entertained.
to see that?
Yeah, I'm super curious. You're not curious?
Dude,
they just brought
fuck.
Cillian Murphy back.
Nope.
This guy literally leans
Not at
over
all. Not
to
even
me
a little bit.
and he goes, dude, I really like this movie.
I did.
Okay.
But it's a cash grab that you don't want to see
No, I like the
anymore
movie.
of.
It's not a
I don't. It
cash
can end
grab.
now.
Yeah.
Can end now.
What? But there's no ending. That swiftly, very swiftly takes us into Rotten Tomato, where we estimate, aka guess, the Rotten
Guesstimate.
Tomatoes scores. Abby and Brendan do for the critics and the audience.
Okay, play that theme song for Rotten Tomatoes.
You are about to find out if we really know what we're talking about. Are we frauds or are we connoisseurs? Here come our Rotten Tomato scores.
Okay, we're back. Time to guess. We're going to start with me, then we're going to go to Brendan.
You know what? Do audience first. You guys always do critic first.
Okay. Audience first. I'm going to guess that the audience, I think this was just probably liked all around. Audience is going to be a little lower than critics. Maybe. I'm going to say an 88 audience.
92 audience.
Okay. Let's hear it. Bam!
Is that the first
No,
time?
dude, I'm nailing them all day and night. I'm a fucking beast at this.
On the 8 nose,
I'm a
bro.
man of the people.
All right,
3 off.
88 on the nose.
That was pretty good by you. 4 off, but.
Critics.
Who
Okay.
cares?
You want to go first?
No.
Critics, I'm going to say 92. Brendan's. Actually, sorry. 91.
You're
91,
wrong.
91, 91.
Nope.
I can see it in the reflection
You
of those
wanna-
glasses.
See, dude.
No, I'm joking. I can't.
I'm not wearing glasses.
No,
I'm
you
so
idiot.
dumb.
You have but you're glassy drunk eyeballs. I'm gonna say 80.
That's a
I'm gonna
random-
go 88.
All right. We switched.
You know
So,
it. You've
I
seen
don't
it.
know.
Abby, if you had gone 1 point in the other direction,
It's 90. Oh, no,
3.
93. Wow.
93?
Abby, that's the most accurate you've ever
So
been.
critics were 93 and audience was
88.
88. Okay. So that's around where I thought
And the
it would be.
IMDb
It's a good
Bader
movie.
is 78. Not that anybody
And
cares.
real quick, can you tell us the last 28 years later? Which was a lot more, I remember it's a lot more polarizing, especially at the end. The audience was way lower, as I recall.
28 years later, critics 88 and audience 63.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Because it was a little worse for sure. It was definitely worse, but audience polarizing.
It was 100%
Yeah.
worse.
All right.
100%.
Well, before we give our own scores, we got to talk about Medicare at Best, named after the funniest review we ever read when somebody tried to say mediocre at best. But it's
One
just
star
to say,
Medicare at best.
it's just to say people are really dumb and write some funny shit in the audience scores. To be honest, because this one was so high, it was hard to find any that weren't just like, this is too violent. But 0.5, not much zombie interaction. Here's the other one. Terrible movie, absolutely terrible, positively terrible. Here's my favorite. Solo cuestionar hacia dónde ha ido esta historia que lo interesante eran...
Was that funny to you because it's Spanish?
Actually, my accent was better than I thought. I just thought it was going to be funny to read something in a language I don't speak.
What did it say?
I don't know.
You actually, A, do know a good amount of Spanish, and B, you could click one button to find out.
I'm only asking where this was in history that's interesting. There were zombies that run and don't.
What, is this a good review or a bad review?
It was negative, but it's like a paragraph of
They're wondering
Spanish.
if this movie is historical. Historical.
Did this really happen?
When in history did this happen?
Solo quest.
This is going to become our racist segment where Will just says, dude, check out this funny one. They're speaking freaking different language.
Forever our friends thought
this part in history.
Forever people thought Rotten Estimato was just us being gringies.
Pretty good segment.
Let's get our scores on the boards. Brendan, what is your effing score on this
My
effing
score
movie?
is not good because this movie was... I'm joking. I actually enjoyed this movie. Last movie was absolutely trash shitty. Did not like it at all.
Trash City, the
but
basement.
There was a lot of redeeming qualities in this movie. And guess what? Daddy liked mucho. And Ralph, whatever your name is, you killed it. And you
Get
made
him an Oscar, dude.
And I'm a guy who likes performances. I'm going to give this movie an 8.9.
Ooh, nice.
All right, 8.9. I just think it was cool and unique, and 8.9 is wild, but I'm going to give it an 8.4. Eating Alamo popcorn while a zombie eats a brains popcorn.
8.4.
Nothing subjective about
Say
this.
more about
there are
it.
right
Say
answers
more
and
about
wrong
it.
I thought it
answers.
was way better than 8.4, but
Well, I know, that's why we heard your
That's
score.
the beautiful thing about scores.
Democracy.
This is gonna get you guys
Let me guess. Perfect time.
10 out of 10. Twistleton, Wykeham, Fiennes. I will say this. I saw it twice. The second time it gets even better. You guys know I love this franchise. This, to me, was the perfect continuation of a story and world I love while also doing so many things I never would have expected.
Is it better or worse than 28 Days Later?
Worse.
So it's a 9.9.
Wait, you gave it a 10? You gave it a 10?
Oh,
you
yeah.
actually gave it a 10?
He gave it a 10, baby.
This is my favorite contemporary horror movie we've watched on the show.
Oh,
one that
we're
saw
gonna
in theaters.
fight later tonight, baby. We're gonna have some footage of me and Dubs fighting about.
No, I really believe it's the
They're gonna
Empire.
have knife fight
it's
in
the
a
Empire
pool.
Strikes Back of horror. I think it's gonna go down.
I'm going to
as,
Empire Strike Back.
It's gonna go down as what? The Empire. It's
the
gonna go
most
down as
important sequel in horror.
Well,
I think.
neither of us will live to see
Have
that.
you seen
but-
Terrifier 2? Okay.
Oh, I
signing
believe
Thank you guys
out.
so much for
Thank
listening
you
to
so
this. Fucking
much.
shit. Peace.
2 men and a baby. Oh yeah.